If you got a rusty knife somewhere in your house, watch this before you throw it out. Because as I lower this blade down into a jar of nothing but cheap grocery store vinegar, the rust is already bleeding off the steel in a brown cloud, and in a minute I'll pull it out, wipe it with a ball of foil, and cut a tomato clean through with it. 30 cents. The store wants $12 for the same idea. My name's Earl. I've been bringing steel back from rust since before most of the bottles in that aisle existed, and there's nothing here worth holding back, so let's do the whole thing right now, start to finish. Go get that knife. Grab a jar while you're up. Glass jar or a plastic pitcher, tall enough to stand the blade and upright. Not a metal bowl. The acid can't tell the difference between the rust and the bowl, and there's no sense giving it two jobs. Now the vinegar, plain white distilled, the cheapest jug on the bottom shelf, $3.50 a gallon. Every jug in that store is the same 5% acetic acid, the organic one with the nice label, the store brand. All of it, 5%, so buy cheap. If your store carries something called cleaning vinegar, that runs 6% and works a touch faster, and either one's fine. Pour it in until the whole blade will be covered, and stir in 2 tablespoons of plain table salt. The salt isn't seasoning. In water, it splits into charged particles that ferry the reaction along faster. The same reason a salted winter road rusts a truck in one season. We're just pointing that same push the other direction. Now the part most folks get wrong before they start, the handle never goes in. Clip a clothespin across the mouth of the jar and hang the knife from it, blade down, so steel's the only thing swimming. A few hours in acid dries wood out, cracks it, and works loose the pins holding it to the blade. And bone and brass fittings don't enjoy the bath much either. Blade wet, handle dry, every time. Lower it in and watch for a minute, because the jar starts talking to you almost right away. Inside 10 or 15 minutes, you'll see thin strings of bubbles, small as pinheads, crawling up off the steel. The reaction letting off a little hydrogen as it works. And the vinegar starts tinting, tea-colored first, then that rusty brown you saw in my jar. That color is the rust itself, dissolved and riding around in the liquid instead of sitting on your knife. When the jar's going brown, you know it's eaten. Timing, light rust, a couple of hours does it. A blade crusted solid orange like mine wants the night. A warm spot, a sunny windowsill near the stove, runs the job about twice as fast as a cold counter, so park it warm if you're in a hurry. But check on it. Every couple of hours, lift it out and drag your thumb across the flat. When the rust smears off soft and muddy under your thumb, it's done. And this is the one place you can lose. Every hour it sits past that point, the acid runs low on rust and starts nosing into the good steel instead. Longer is not a bonus. Pull it when it wipes. When it's ready, scrub the whole blade with a wadded up ball of aluminum foil dipped right in the same vinegar. Foil, not steel wool, and the reason's worth knowing. Aluminum is softer than knife steel, so it physically cannot scratch the blade. It gives first, but it's still harder than rust. It eats the one thing and can't hurt the other. The rust comes off as gray-brown mud, bright metal underneath. Anything stubborn down in a pit, hit with a paste of baking soda and water. And now 60 seconds that matter more than the whole soak, because bare steel fresh out of an acid bath is wide open, and bare wet steel starts rusting again in minutes. You can stand there and watch it haze orange before your coffee's done. So the moment it's scrubbed, rinse it under the tap. Wipe it all over with that baking soda paste. It'll fizz a little on the blade, and that fizz is the leftover acid getting canceled, so it quits eating. Rinse once more and towel it completely dry right then in your bands, not drip drying in a rack. Then oil it. Food grade mineral oil. And a side note that'll save you $7. The pharmacy sells it in the laxative aisle for about $3 a bottle. And it's the identical stuff the kitchen store sells as cutting board oil for $10. Few drops, rub to a thin film. Wipe back until it's just a sheen. Rinse, cancel, dry, oil. That minute is the difference between a knife that stays fixed and one that circles right back. One more thing before you call it done. Rust eats the finest part of an edge first, so even a blade that comes out bright will usually want 15 or 20 passes on a cheap sharpening stone before it shaves paper again. 10 minutes. The vinegar gives you back the knife, the stone gives you back the edge. Then cut the tomato. Now, your knife's got hours of sitting ahead of it, so while it soaks, come stand in the rust aisle with me, because you ought to see what that jar of yours sells for. 3 bottles, and I'll read you the backs. The pink one first, Loctite Naval Jelly, on that shelf 50 years. $7 for 8 ounces and the working ingredient. is phosphoric acid, roughly a quarter of the bottle. An acid that eats rust, same family as what's in your jar, just stronger. It's faster, 10 or 15 minutes, fair is fair. But run the numbers. 87 cents an ounce against vinegar's 3 cents. 30 times the price for the same chemistry. Next to it, Rust-Oleum Rust Dissolver Gel, $10 to $15 for 32 ounces. Acid thickened into a gel so it clings to a car fender instead of running off. Clever on a fender. On a knife that stands in a jar, you're paying a premium for cling you don't need. And the big jug, Evapo Rust, $31 a gallon, and I genuinely enjoy this part. The label itself tells you 1 gallon removes about half a pound of rust. Their words. $31, half a pound, that's $62 a pound. Rust is worthless sitting on your knife and priced like beef tenderloin the moment somebody bottles the cure. None of these are scams, mind you. They all work. It's one aisle selling one idea at $7, $15, and $31, while the same idea sits under your sink for $3.50. There's no money in mentioning that, so no label ever has. And if you're wondering whether a jug of salad dressing dissolving, metal is kitchen folklore. It's the steel industry's own method. Every mill on earth dips fresh-rolled steel in acid baths to strip the oxide crust before a single sheet gets sold. They've done it for a century, and they call it pickling. Every clean piece of new steel you've ever bought took an acid bath before it met you. My mother did the same job on her good scissors with the jug under the sink. It's in the old ledger, a few cents worth, and she and the mill were running the identical reaction. If getting the whole method up front was worth something to you, tap subscribe down there. Free. And it's the only thing I'll ask you for today. Now, while that jar works, let me empty the rest of my pockets. 6 more ways to kill rust, including a bucket trick that raises tools from the dead, and the one blade you must never put in vinegar at all, cheapest first. If your knife isn't crusted, just freckles, a few orange spots on the flat, you don't even need the jar. That same ball of foil dipped in plain water this time, rubbed on the spots for 30 seconds. Gone, no scratch, no soak. And it isn't just knives. The wet foil ball takes rust freckles off chrome faucets, bike handlebars, and old chair legs. Anywhere rust is spots instead of crust. People pay $8 for a chrome polish that does what free foil does. Want more speed than vinegar's got? Walk to the canning aisle, canning, not cleaning, and pick up a jar of citric acid, about $4, sitting there because home canners use it to keep peaches from browning. It's the acid that makes lemons sour, sold as a pure powder, and it hits rust noticeably harder. 1 tablespoon in a cup of hot water and light rust lets go in 20 or 30 minutes. Heavy rust in 2 or 3 hours instead of overnight. Same rules. Handle out, pull it when the rust goes soft. Same rinse, cancel, dry oil minute after. 1 jar does a couple dozen knives. Most of the Miracle in Minutes rust products online are citric acid wearing a mascot. And the ketchup trick going around? Ketchup is vinegar and tomato acid in a costume. It works slowly, priced by the squeeze bottle. Save it for the fries. While we're clearing up the internet, WD-40 is not a rust remover and never claimed to be. The name is literally the recipe. Water displacement 40th attempt. Worked out in 1953 by the Rocket Chemical Company in San Diego to keep missile skins from corroding. It shoves water off metal and leaves a light oil film, which makes it a fine rust preventer for shed tools and a poor remover of anything. Spray it on a rusted blade and what you've got is shiny rust. It has a job. This isn't it. Before the heavy artillery, let me tell you what my own education cost, so you don't pay the same tuition. Years back, I bought a carbon steel knife at a yard sale for $0.25, rusted stem to stern, which is why it was $0.25. Dropped it in a vinegar jar on a Friday, figured longer meant cleaner, and then a neighbor needed help with a fence, and the weekend got away from me. Sunday night, I fished it out. Rust was gone, all right. So was the edge. The acid had run out of rust and gone to work on the steel. And the blade came up gray, pitted, rough as a sidewalk. Ruined. So I did what a man does when he's already mad. Drove to the store, spent $40 on a name-brand rust kit and a wire wheel for the drill, and inside a month I'd cooked the drill motor leaning on it. $40 and a dead drill to lose a fight my mother won with pocket change. That's about my average. Pull the blade when the rust lets go. That's the whole lesson, and it cost me a drill to learn it. Now the bucket trick, for the tool, or the big old blade that looks genuinely dead, crusted so thick vinegar, would take a week. It's called electrolysis, which sounds like a laboratory and is actually a bucket and a battery charger. Fill a plastic bucket with water and stir in washing soda, sodium carbonate, laundry aisle, $5 a box, 1 tablespoon per gallon. Hang your rusty piece from the negative clamp of an ordinary 12-volt battery charger, the kind half of you already own. Clip a sacrificial chunk of plain steel, rebar, a junk wrench, anything but stainless, to the positive clamp and hang it in the same bucket, not touching the first piece. 2 amps, walk away. Bubbles stream off your tool like a glass of soda, and overnight the current pushes the rust off your steel and over onto the sacrificial piece. Come morning, the rust wipes off as black sludge, right out of pits no brush ever reached. And the current cannot eat your good steel, no matter how long you forget about it. The one method in this whole video that forgives a man like me. Pull your tool and look at the sacrificial piece before you dump the water. Crusted foul with everything that used to be your rust. That's the receipt, and the whole transfer ran on about a nickel of electricity. Hatchet heads, garden shears, plane bodies, a whole handsaw if the bucket's long enough, cast iron too. The folks who restore old tools for a living run tanks the size of bathtubs on this exact setup. 2 rules. Do it outdoors or with the garage door open, because those bubbles are hydrogen and it wants ventilation. And never swap the clamps. Negative on the piece you're saving, every single time. The lazy method, molasses. I'm serious. 1 part cheap blackstrap to 9 parts water in a bucket behind the shed. Drop the rusty part in and come back in a week or 2. The rust's gone soft and slid off. Compounds in molasses latch onto the iron in the rust and pull it into the liquid. And here's the fun part. That's chelation, the very same working principle inside the $31 Evapo-Rust jug, running on $1's worth of syrup. Farmers have soaked plow parts in molasses tubs for the better part of a century. It won't touch good steel at all. No timing, no checking, no risk. If you can supply the one ingredient no bottle can sell you, which is patience. Lay a board over the bucket so rain doesn't thin it and raccoons don't investigate. 1 batch keeps working 3 or 4 rounds of parts. And fair warning, it smells like a barnyard by week 2. Keep it downwind. For the spot you can't dunk, rust tight against a wooden handle, a blade that shouldn't soak, go to the pantry and cut a raw potato in half. Rub dish soap on the cut face and scrub the rust with the potato like it's a sponge. A potato carries oxalic acid, the same working ingredient printed on a can of Barkeeper's Friend, if you've got one under the sink. And between the acid loosening and the soap floating it off, spot rust wipes away with no soak at all. When the cut face goes brown and slick, slice it fresh and keep going. Half a spud you were boiling anyway. And since half of you have a rusty cast iron skillet hanging in the garage right now, the vinegar works on it, but cast iron plays by stricter rules. Cut the vinegar half and half with water and watch the clock like it owes you money. 30 minutes, check it. An hour at the absolute most, never overnight. Truth is, the foil ball and a handful of coarse salt handle most skillet rust with no soak at all. And a skillet isn't finished when it's clean. Bare cast iron flash rusts even faster than a blade. Dry it on a hot burner for 2 minutes. Wipe the thinnest film of cooking oil over every inch. And set it upside down in a 450-degree oven for an hour so the oil bakes into a hard skin. That's seasoning, and it's the pan's whole armor. 1 careful soak, 1 oven hour, and Grandma's skillet fries eggs again. People pay $80 for a new one because nobody ever told them this paragraph. And the method that beats every one of these, never needing them again. Rust needs damp. A dry knife cannot rust, and that's the entire science of it. Tell a good knife dry the second you're done using it. That little puddle in the dish rack is where half of all kitchen rust gets born. Keep good knives out of the dishwasher entirely. An hour of heat, steam, and harsh detergent sitting on steel is the fastest rust machine in your house. Worse than a year in a damp drawer. Once a week, a drop of mineral oil down any carbon blade. Mine where they live too. A wooden block with damp slots holds a blade wet for days without you knowing, while a magnetic strip on the wall dries it in open air in minutes. And for the shed, drop 3 or 4 sticks of blackboard chalk in the toolbox, $1 a box. Chalk drinks moisture out of the air before it can settle on the tools. Machinists have kept a stick in every drawer for 100 years. Towel, oil, no dishwasher, chalk, about $1, and the problem's over for good. Straight talk on what all this can and can't do, so nobody has to write me an angry comment in August. Every method here removes rust. None of them put steel back. Pits stay, small dark specks in the clean metal, honest scars, nothing more. An edge chewed hollow, or a spot eaten nearly through stays that way. That knife needs a grinder or a goodbye, and no liquid on earth changes it. The temper, The hardness the blade got at the forge comes through untouched. Temper changes at hundreds of degrees, and a room temperature soak can't reach it. So your derusted knife is exactly as hard as the day it was made. Stainless barely needs any of this. Stainless rust is nearly always a surface freckle, and the foil alone clears it in a minute. Don't point vinegar at aluminum, brass, or anything galvanized. Those corrode differently. There's no orange rust for the acid to grab. And on galvanized coating, the acid does harm instead of good. And how long the fix holds is entirely up to the damp. Dry and oiled, decades. Tossed back wet into the same drawer it came from. Orange inside a month. And that one's not the vinegar's fault. Now the warning I promised. The blade that never goes in the jar. If you pick up an old carbon knife and the steel is a smooth, even gray-black all over. Not orange, not flaky, just dark like the inside of an old cast pan. Put the vinegar down. That's not rust. That's patina, a thin, tight oxide skin, the steel built over years of use, and it protects the blade. Knife folks prize it over shine every time. Strip it chasing bright and you get a raw, hungry blade that rusts faster than it ever did with its coat on. Orange and crumbly gets treated, smooth and dark gets left alone. Knowing the difference is half the trade. Does it hold up outside my kitchen? Ask Carl, Ruth's nephew from down the road. Clearing out her cellar last spring, he found a wooden crate with 6 of her old carbon kitchen knives inside. Every one rusted solid from years in that damp. He'd already priced a replacement set at the restaurant supply, $60-some, and brought me the crate mostly to ask if it was trash. We stood all 6 in vinegar jars that evening. Next night, foil, baking soda, towel, oil, and 6 bright working knives. He's been cooking on them for 3 months. About $1 of vinegar against the 60 he never spent. That math travels. Nobody runs a commercial for the vinegar you already own. There's no money in selling a man what's sitting in his own house. The bottles get the shelf space and the ad budget because somebody profits every time you don't know the cheap version exists. That's not a plot. It's arithmetic. So the Saturday list. Gallon of white vinegar, $3.50. Salt, baking soda. Citric acid from the canning aisle, $4 if you want speed. Food-grade mineral oil from the pharmacy, $3. Chalk, $1. Optional heavy kit, a $5 box of washing soda and the battery charger you already own, or a jug of molasses and 2 weeks of ignoring a bucket. The method, freckles, wet foil, 30 seconds. Real rust, blade and vinegar with 2 tablespoons of salt. Handle dry, 2 hours to overnight, out the moment it wipes soft. Foil scrub, rinse, baking soda, towel dry, thin oil, 20 passes on a stone. Can't soak it, potato and dish soap. Cast iron, half strength, 30 minutes, season at 450. Dead tool, bucket, and charger. Then towel your knives, skip the dishwasher, and you'll never need this video twice. Go pull the worst knife in the house, the one somebody gave up on, and get it soaking tonight. It'll cost less than the coffee you drink waiting on it. Then tell me 2 things in the comments, what you rescued and how far gone it was, and the best cheap fix your folks ever taught you that never made it onto a label. I read everyone. See you in the next one.